Welcome everyone to the October MetroNorth Roundtable meeting. Why don't we start with some introductions? Let's start, this time we'll start with folks that are joining remotely. Do we have any remote users? Jennifer? No, that's not either that. She's on mute. All right. I'm John Gagnon. I'm the co-chair with Ari of the Roundtable. I'm manager of radiology informatics here at Leahy Hospital Medical Center. Been in healthcare IT for about 20 years and IT in general for about 30. Currently not really project managing, just doing it informally within my team.
Hi, Russell Moore. I'm the senior project manager with Nuance and their healthcare division. I've been with Nuance for about 18 months, and I was with Nokia for about 5.5 years prior to that. So healthcare is relatively new to me, but enjoying it. A lot of work. I've been in IT project management for about 30 years, and I've been doing Agile for about 6 years now. And I've found that the Agile waterfall mix can be done in projects, and there's quite a bit of practice going on out there. So.
I'm Ari Davidow. I co-chair this roundtable with John. Right now I'm in transition, doing project management for, I guess, about 20 years, Agile for most of the last decade. Unlike Russ, I've done a lot of back and forth and hybrid work.
Yeah, my name is Srinivas. I'm a project manager working at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, administration and finance sector. I have 21+ years of experience in the IT industry. I am also assistant vice president for business development in PMI Mass Business.
I'm Wes Cathcart, senior project manager here at Leahy Health. I've been here for 2.5 years. I've been in IT project management over 20 years and IT for over 30 years. Help out sometimes with the roundtables, standing when I need to. So if any of these guys aren't available, you can contact me.
Judah Levine, also from Nuance. Been there for 15+ years. I'm in the enterprise division working with large clients that have call centers.
Marie Van Cootie, the speaker this morning, and I used to be in IT for about 28 years, and I had my own businesses in leadership and team coach for the past 9 years or so, and I work a lot with project managers and business analysts and that sort of thing. So in my experience to that, it's a room full of lots of experience.
So we want to remind the members that next month, November 6th, is it November 16th?
Yeah, because
Is that
November and December we do the third Wednesday, so as not to conflict with Thanksgiving and Christmas.
That's where we go. So we'll have Bill Singer on the topic of how to thrive in the face of cutbacks.
I will make sure we have this room.
Here's our agenda. We're already a little bit behind schedule, but I'm sure we'll be able to catch up. Just to remind everyone that we now have 11 roundtables in 8 towns, 4 in Boston. And you said new Agile. What is that reference?
Oh, you know what? I had made a new slide, but there is a new roundtable which is Agile that meets at Northeastern, I believe. And the first meeting is today. But tonight.
Yeah.
Which they probably won't stick with fourth Wednesday because I pointed out that Agile Boston also meets fourth Wednesday, and sort of silly to have 2 out of 3 Agile meetups on the same night each month.
presentation is Help Me Help You, proactively educate your business stakeholders for greater project success. Marie Bencuti is an accomplished certified leadership and team coach, consultant, speaker, training, and project management professional who has built a 35-plus year career, a commitment to excellence, integrity, and continuous learning. Her passion is helping leaders and teams bring the very best to their work while creating engaged and productive working relationships. If you don't mind, I'll leave the rest of the others. I'll hand it over to Marie.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Will. Again, good morning. Lots of experience in this room, so that's fantastic. And what I'd like to do is have this be a conversation. You guys have lots of, morning, John. You guys have lots of experience, lots of tips and things that you can add to the discussion, so I'd like to make sure that we do that. And if anybody does join us online, I apologize because there's a worksheet that you won't see. There are 3 handouts. John, if you want to grab those at the front there.
What's that? Oh,
Yeah.
just right arrow. If you need to.
Yep.
Is that what you're asking?
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah. So, like I said, let's make this a conversation. Here's where we're going today. We're just going to talk about, how to work with business stakeholders. You guys have lots of experience in that, obviously, having been in the business for a while. Enhancing your relationships, enhancing your credibility with your stakeholders, with your teams, in terms of, cutting down some of the pain that we all have, right? So the Help Me Help You concept. And just talking about ways to help prevent miscommunications, to communicate clearer, to be proactive around that as well. So again, love to hear what you guys do, how you share your experiences as well. There's actually a clip that I wanna show here. Hopefully I'm not gonna mess things up as I do this. But who remembers the movie, or who has seen the movie Jerry Maguire? Just about everybody. You haven't seen it. Okay, so just very briefly. So this is the story of a sports agent who works in a very competitive industry, obviously, dealing with supporting professional athletes. And he goes through sort of a breakthrough, a personal transformation. He decides, I'm not going to do it the way everybody's been doing it with sleazy deals and things like that. He grows a conscience and ends up telling his associates that he wants to do things a little bit differently. He ends up getting fired because he wants to do things the right way, the human way. And he ends up, so he loses his job, he loses his fiancée, and he loses all of his clients. In the struggle, as that's happening, he tries to hold on to some of his clients, and he loses all of them except for one. And he's a very high-maintenance client, Rod Tidwell. So this movie is actually one of my favorite movies because, as a coach, I'm all about personal transformation and change and choice and all those sorts of things. But when I watch this movie, there's a particular scene in the locker room where it's all about Help Me Help You, and that was my inspiration for this presentation that I had done. So I want to play this for you.
Probably whatever you need to do to your computer to, F4, function F4, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Usually that's like,
No. 8, 12. They're not working. Darn.
just that faith by itself.
No.
Function FA? Function FA.
No. I know. Oh, well. Okay. Well, what I can do, I've got a speaker. You won't be able to see the screen all that well, but I can still play. It's just a very short clip anyway.
I do not dance, and I do not stop preseason without a contract. Fine, fine. Jerry, talk to me. Breathe. Breathe, Jerry. I am out here for you. You don't know what it's like to be me out here for you. It is an up at dawn, pride swallowing siege that I will never fully tell you about, okay? Help me. Help me. Help me. You crying alone like a baby thread. And I dig that about you. No contract, help me. I'll help you. Help everyone. That's my man. Help me. Help me.
Okay, so that was, it would have been better off on the screen here, but that was my inspiration for this, because how many times have we felt like that with our clients, right? Just work with me, just help me figure out, I'm trying to do this for you, right? So let's get together, talk, share with me, whatever it might be, right? So, okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today, and I want to hear about what are some of the struggles that you have with your clients in terms of getting the right requirements, in terms of getting things done on time, all the challenges that you work with your clients.
I think you mentioned on time, some clients, you're trying to get approval from certain requirements, you've written them up, you've discussed it, just, please approve it, but we can't move forward without the approval, and then it's just taking forever to get it, and then you lose your resources, you gotta request. Again, it's...
Yep, so having to stay on top of them,
Right.
right? Yeah, yep,
So,
prodding them.
yeah.
Here's the deadline, okay, you missed the deadline, here's the next deadline,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I think you said it pretty good, getting the requirements. And what I've found is helpful to stimulate communication is to publish to all the stakeholders what I think the requirements are. And then you'll finally get some feedback, not really sure who it's going to come from. And it might be a good start, might be a bad start, because somebody might say, where'd you get those requirements?
Yeah, yeah,
Some of them you just have to make it up to get the
right.
conversation
You ever
going.
put something really shocking in there just to see if
I haven't tried that yet.
I do that all the time.
Yep.
That's
You signed it.
But just to stimulate the discussion again.
Yeah, yeah,
Rather than just say, what's your requirements, can you give them to me by such and such a date? Inevitably, the date goes by and you still don't have it.
right. You gotta be moving towards that deadline that they think is still gonna happen, right? Yeah. So lots of issues that we have, and so unresponsive stakeholders, we deal with that all the time, right? Unclear expectations, they don't know a lot of times how to talk to us, how to let us know what they need or what they even need, right? So unclear unless we help to make them clear. High stress, pointing fingers, project decisions that take forever and just circle and circle and circle and change, missed deadlines, over budget, repeated mistakes, and then the rework that has to happen, and you end up in this place where why can't you guys get it right? Why can't IT get this right, right? You missed the deadline again, or you didn't come through with all of the requirements that we needed, or why didn't you know that we needed this other thing? We didn't know that we had to ask for it, right? Different things like that. So these are the areas that we're going to talk about, because over the years, as I kept struggling with that as well, as a developer, as a BA, as a PM, all along the way, some of these things, and as I work with my clients, some of these things start to show up in terms of how do you preempt some of that? How do you work it so that you don't end up on the other side with everything on fire? So again, I'd love this to be a discussion, and just talk a little bit about, so what is the credibility piece mean to you in terms of being a PM and keeping things on track?
one idea comes to mind, being to, trust the information that you're getting from your colleagues. And also understanding, what they might be up to as well, because all of us are being pulled in so many different directions. And that the people that you're depending on in terms of getting the information you need to move forward, they too are being pulled in many different directions.
Yep.
So, one of the things that I sometimes struggle with in terms of seeing about being point of view is that in order for me to move forward in terms of project, sometimes I need to go to my superiors and get them to understand that I need that information in order for this to go forward. Sometimes I don't understand what the resistance is, but that's when it changes.
Yep. So that's where that credibility piece and the trust piece comes in, right, on both sides, right? So to have them be able to listen to you and for you to be able to take in what they're saying, right, and work with what they're giving you too, Yeah. Yeah, what else comes to mind in terms of the credibility piece? How important do you think it is for what we do?
I think you always want to be prepared for meetings, and that's typically when you're discussing things. Otherwise, a lot of stuff is by email, but you always want to be prepared. Have people with you who are, the resources, and speak to issues that might be addressed.
Yep, right, so being prepared, being ready for whatever shows up as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yep, right, having thought things through, the whole risk process, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of these things, and a lot of what I talk about in terms of my presentations is the people part of it, right? So how do we build credibility with folks? Obviously there's the reputation that we come with, if you've worked with them before, what's your resume say, what's your years of experience, all those sorts of things. But there's also the interactions that you have on a daily basis with folks. And so, it is about your character. It is about how authentically are you showing up. Do you follow through on the things that you say that you're going to do? Do you listen to folks? Do you take their opinions or just kind of say, nope, this is the way we're going to do it kind of thing, right? So all of those things that are relationship building and connection building, yeah? Make sense? Leading by example, modeling the behavior that you want. So this is for your team, whatever that might be, whether it's a team of other PMs, a team of developers, your team with the business unit as well, so with everybody. Filling those gaps of expertise and experience. So again, this room is full of years of experience, but for maybe some of the other PMs that work with you, helping them to fill some of those gaps so that they can help to build their credibility around expertise and experience. So any kind of training or maybe opportunities that you can provide for them. And this whole idea of investing in, it's like putting change in the bank. Every day, if you put your pocket change in the bank, over time it grows. And we don't get great return rates these days, but we used to. But you get the idea that, over the years it starts to grow. And so if you start to look at relationships that same way, each and every time you have an interaction with somebody, how are you investing in that relationship? What are you doing this one conversation to take it from here to there, right? So can you lead that relationship a little bit better than it was the last time? Makes a huge difference in terms of credibility and the relationship so that it's easier to work with folks. Yeah? What do you guys think about that? Tough to do, easy to do, something that we don't pay enough attention to? What do you think?
I think it's a two-way street. So as a project manager, program manager, you need input, work from the team, from your stakeholders, and they want you to get the work done. So Ari and I were talking about this before we started. A lot of times stakeholders don't understand the project management process. Why do you need to do this? Why do you need to go through all the steps? So that when you communicate with your stakeholders, if you can make them understand why you need to do a process, how it benefits them, at least initially, kind of have to sell it. But then once you do it and they can see as you work work with a team, what the result is providing them. So, for example, if you go into a meeting or you go into a project and you don't have a good list of requirements, you don't have a good communication plan up front, the team is saying, why do we have to do all this? And, it's good if you can do it in the background, but they do have to see it at some point in time. But then eventually, as you get into the project, they'll see how consistent communications to the right stakeholders benefit having the requirements. That seems to be obvious, but you don't always get the requirements. And putting that information together, RACI charts, nobody wants to sit down and do a RACI chart, but
Yeah, those painful things, but you have essentially just done my whole presentation. I love this. Because you've gotten.
Can we go now?
I know, you hit the communication piece and you hit the piece at the end that I talked about too around educating everybody. Why do we do this stuff that we do that makes them feel like, oh gosh, I'm going to answer those questions again, or whatever it is. So thank you for that, and we'll circle back around to that. That's great. We'll add more. So here's what I want to talk about. We don't have time for this today, but each one of you should have a little worksheet packet. They might look like full sheets, they might look like half sheets, but they're the same thing. I had created this for the Harvard University Project Management Community of Practice as a 2.5-hour workshop. So you guys are getting the quickie version without the breakouts. But this is a tool, these worksheets that I put together. They follow along with this, and this is a tool that you can use either on your own or bring it back to your other PMs that are a little less experienced for them to start to think about this. And so what this first piece is, and just very briefly about that, in terms of building credibility and building your reputation and your relationship with your team, with your business units, I've listed 26 credibility builders here. And what I typically do with my clients is I'll work with them on 1 or 2 a week or 1 or 2 a month, whatever whatever's more challenging for them. It might take a little bit longer, that sort of thing. But if you put a plan together, or if you work with your folks to put a plan together, what are the top 3 things that you can focus on over the next month? Or the one thing you can focus on this week in terms of building relationships or building credibility? So one might be, number 1, being honest, transparent, straightforward, real. How open and honest are you with your team about what you do in the background, right? The whole idea of listening with your ears, your eyes, your intuition, your gut. So practicing different skills, right? So what these worksheets are is a way for people to put together a plan of action with all these things that we're talking about. Okay. So on to the next one, growing your relationships. And this really is talking about are we paying enough attention to all the different types of relationships that we work with, right? So as leaders, we need to depend on all different kinds of people, not just having a great relationship with our business units. We also have to nurture those relationships of the other folks on our teams, the developers, the BAs, the QA people, everybody that we're dealing with, right? So are you paying enough attention to each of those relationships in order to keep things going smoothly? Right? So all the different ones. Identifying and nurturing those relationships, focusing on the giving and not receiving. I just actually joined BNI, which is a business networking organization, which is really awesome. Their motto is givers gain. And it's so true. If you are generous with your experience, generous with your time, generous with your knowledge, and share and educate folks, or, take that extra step just enough, it's going to come back to you and give them, right? So that's another practice that you can look at and start to put into play and see. Just, try it for a month. See what happens. Just like do that extra thing every time. Again, every time you have an interaction with somebody. Is there something I can do to help you with this or something? And see what happens to the relationship. Right? Showing appreciation and acknowledgement. I tell this story all the time when I used to be a project manager for the state, and we were talking about the fact that we have some folks in common probably because I used to work for the state as well. There was no budget to take people out to lunch or, you know, congratulate them in any significant way. We used to cut out colored, construction paper stars and put little stickers on them. That just said thank you or great job or you're awesome or whatever. You know, little things you might give a kindergartner. But I'll tell you, these went over so big, everybody started putting them up on the side of their cube. They'd collect them. How many do you have? Did you get one for this project? So it was just a little way for us to say thank you. You know, we recognize the hard work that you're doing, and people started competing with people. So it was really great. So find a way to just acknowledge folks. If you don't have a budget for being able to do something formal, you know, find a little way to say thank you. And
Yeah, usually I notice like, not, money always doesn't satisfy everyone. Money doesn't do all the work all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes actually you need to appreciate people. Like, sometimes when you appreciate, they'll be very happy who are not looking for money. Or even the people who are looking for money, but appreciation is the first thing we should always.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I came up with a while ago was what I call drive-by appreciation or drive-by thank yous, right? So walking down the hall, it takes nothing to pop your head into somebody's cube and say, hey, you know what, you did a really great job with that report in the meeting today. Thanks a lot. You know, you'll make somebody's day or somebody's week if you just stop and acknowledge them, because we don't hear that enough. You know, how many people get enough thank yous in their lives? You know, probably not many. So again, there's no skin off your back to be able to just take 2 seconds, pop your head in, say something, and just acknowledge it. So just things like that to keep in mind. Thinking about, and I'm sure you guys do this, so you can probably speak to this more than I, but thinking about ways in which you can position yourself as a strategic partner for your clients, for your business unit, a trusted advisor. How can you get to know more about their world and what their issues are? You know, a lot of times we'll just put on our PM hat and we'll just do our job. We're really good at doing our job. But how much more can you sort of dive into what their world is and understand that and be able to be that person that they can come to and say, you know what, I've got this problem, I'm not sure how to tackle it. Well, what do you do about that? Because you might be able to offer up some sort of solution, right? So to be inviting those kinds of conversations. You know? Building community and connections, scheduling time to put it on your calendar. So this relationship building stuff needs to be purposeful. We're all very busy. We're all doing probably 2 jobs these days because of layoffs and reorganizations and everything else. And so it's hard to find time for this, but it's important to do that, whether it's just the drive-by thank yous or taking somebody to lunch, you know, buying them a coffee, whatever. But put it on your calendar. Promise yourself that I'm going to do something. I'm going to connect in a different way with somebody once a week, whatever that is, and rotate through the people that you work with, you know. Even if you see them every day, it's a different kind of conversation. That really builds the relationship, builds your credibility, positions you, again, as a partner with them, right? Especially with your business unit. And again, you know, this is about being authentic. It's not about using people or manipulating people. It's about real connection. So I've talked enough at this moment. So what do you guys
I'm going to make one comment, because a lot of what you're talking about is face-to-face.
Yeah.
But almost everybody that I work with, many people, they're all remote. I never see them.
Yep. Do you have the ability to do video chat? At some form?
Maybe.
Yeah, and I know those
I know we have it in the company, but most people are not using it from my...
Yeah, whether it's on the phone or whether it's, you know, Zoom or something that you can load on your own. And I know I hate being on video like that too, but you know, in lieu of being able to take somebody to coffee, you can say, you know what, at 10 o'clock, why don't you pour yourself a cup of coffee? I'll do the same, and let's just chat for 2 minutes or something, you know. Create those moments if you can. I know it's not easy either. Yeah. What else? What other thoughts or challenges about that? Yeah.
I have started using daily stand-up as one way to, especially in a waterfall environment, just getting used to at 10 o'clock, we're all going to check in for a few minutes and see what's going on. If you're in a scrum environment, that's part of your ritual, so it doesn't have the traditional project management environment, it's just a really good way, and people accept it. They'll make the 15 minutes, they'll know that most people will be there, all people, and just, what are you doing today? Anything working out? Anything coming up that you want to mention? And it's there on the calendar, so every day you're talking at least for a couple minutes.
Yeah, that's great. And that's great. Obviously, that's part of the process, in terms of what are the work issues that are coming up. Consider doing it on a personal level as well a little bit. And I say that because when you think about it, when you've got all sorts of crap going on in your personal life, right? You're dealing with maybe sick parents or children that are having a hard time in school, whatever it might be, those things weigh heavy on your mind. We're all walking around with our own stuff. And a lot of times we feel really alone with that. And so if we invite the opportunity for folks to just say, you know what, I got a lot going on right now, can I lean into you a little bit? Can you take this one meeting because I couldn't prepare for it or something like that? To create the opportunities for those kinds of conversations to happen, the project can go smoother. You won't be blindsided necessarily if people are comfortable enough to reach out to each other and to lean on each other when you need to. Yeah? Okay, so keeping with the worksheet idea, what I typically would do at this point is have people do a little bit of a breakout, and there's another sheet on here where it talks about professional relationships. And it gives you an opportunity to think about, if you look at the sheet, who are certain people, so there's a couple of ways to look at this. Relationships that are beneficial to you and your project, right? So your career, your success in this project at this moment. So who are those people specifically that you might be able to target that, you know what, I really need to nurture this relationship a little bit. I need to work on this. And rate the quality. So the second sheet there that has some trigger ideas for you in terms of who the people are, but the rating of the quality of the relationship is interesting, because if you really get honest with yourself and you think about it, sort of a neutral position is 0, but if you've got a little bit of an antagonistic relationship with somebody, it might be a -1, or somebody that's like always an naysayer for you, that's like really a thorn in your side, that might be a -2. So that might be a relationship, as much as you hate to deal with it, that it's worth investing in, right? Take that person to coffee, learn about why they're always a naysayer. So rating those relationships, and then based on that, thinking about what's one step, one little thing that I can do to improve that relationship in some way. And it doesn't have to be like, we're best buddies now, but what can I do to ease it a little bit so that it's not always, my stomach turns when I talk to that person, So again, something that you can take back to your team to work through if you want to do this. So there's a level of, for you personally and your project, then there's for your organization. So what about for the PMO? Or what about for IT department in general? Whatever that is. What are some relationships that are beneficial for you to invest in that way as well? Maybe to connect with somebody in the C-suite, whatever that might be. So what are relationships that make sense for you to invest in? And then there's an opportunity for you to put a little plan together there too. What are a couple of steps that I want to take? Okay, so co-creating your stake. So this is an interesting concept, and there's a really great book. I have a list of books on this app, but there's a really great book called The Stake, and it's about leadership. Excellent book that I would recommend. But when I talk about co-creating a stake, it's really about thinking about, when you think about a stake that you use, say for a tent or for a tarp, something that you're wanting to hold up and down, right? The purpose of the stake is so that, when the wind blows, that thing is tethered to the ground, so it's not going to go anywhere, right? So think about that as a metaphor for different levels of what you do. There are stakes, there are personal stakes, outside of work, your personal stake. Who are you as a person? And we're seeing that in the political realm right now, right? What is their stake that they stand for, right? So you can look at it personally, you can look at it professionally. Your role as a PM, or whatever your particular role happens to be. What is your stake? What is that thing that is true and real and what you stand by, so that when everything goes crazy, that you can go back to and this is my purpose, this is why I'm here, this is, this is my job, this is my role, these are the values that I hold, the things that really ground you, right, when everything goes crazy. So to actually give some time to thinking about that for yourself personally, but then I want to invite you to have a conversation with your team around that too. What is your stake for a team? And have a conversation around that. What's your stake for a particular project? Which, the different projects that we work on might be different people on the teams, or it might be the same team, But to think about it at all those different levels. What's your stake for the department? To have a conversation about that, or for the organization. So at every level, whether we talk about it or not, it's there, and are we following it? Are we participating in it? Are we driving it? Does that make sense? What do you think about that? Does that sound like a difficult conversation to have, or worth having?
Maybe the conversation that everybody's been waiting for.
Why are we here? What is our bigger purpose? Because when the budget gets cut, or all of a sudden they say we don't have enough time, or whatever, what is our bottom line stake? What's our purpose here, right? What we can hold to. Yeah?
You're talking about like in a meeting of your project team with the stakeholders to have this kind of conversation, or
Yes.
where is this conversation happening?
If you think of sort of a Venn diagram, right?
Yeah.
So there's like all these different worlds, and some of them overlap and some of them don't, sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yes, a conversation for each one of those intersections of relationships. So again, maybe you lead a team of PMs, so maybe there's a conversation to be had there in general, or maybe it's on this particular project team, which includes
Okay.
developers, QA, BA, your business unit, everybody. It could be at any level, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Thinking, when you're talking about budget stake, is this the same or a different definition than when you say, well, there's a lot at stake, a lot at stake in this particular project? That's a difference.
It's a different kind of stake. It's more of it's not about necessarily the risks or, doomsday thing that's going to happen if we don't make this good. This is really sort of that, and that's why I always use the tent stake, because when you think about camping out and all of a sudden there's a windstorm, you're going to be happy that tent is held down by the stakes, right? Little pup tent probably would help, but the idea of it, right? Or railroad stakes, right? They keep those things in place so that no matter what hits it, hopefully it's grounded and staying there. So it's a concept to be able to hold on to personally and as a team. And I tell you, if you have these kinds of conversations, your team, again, when things start to go crazy, when stress happens, when people are arguing or disagreeing about something, if you have had this kind of conversation, even if it wasn't 100% complete, you can always go back to that. Okay, so everything's going haywire, guys. Remember, this is our stake. This is what we agreed to. This is what we said was important. So play with that a little bit. It's an interesting concept, and I think it can be really unifying for teams when you think about that, and for ourselves as a person. I'm showing up every day. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking of the connection between that and the issue of goals. I mean, quite often when you're trying to shape the requirements for a project or what really matters, or we're having to ditch things to make a deadline, or we're running, that it's really, what is it that matters is the stuff you want to keep people focused on, not the ephemera that they thought would get you there, but what is it we're really trying to get at, and their relationship here.
It's just other words for what I'm saying, so that's perfect. And which is interesting, if we don't have the conversation, we're making assumptions that everybody in the team understands it the same way that we understand it. If you don't talk about it, when that happens, you're going down your path thinking about, well, this is what's most important, and everybody else is doing what they think is most important. And so if you don't have that, that's where, things kind of miss. So, yeah.
I'd like to have a lot of conversations where people will say, but you always want the papers on your desk, and find yourself going, no, I wanted to make sure I'm informed. If putting the papers on my desk helps, that's great, but make sure
paper or phone call or with text, whatever, right? So, yeah, so what are the important things? What's our stake? What's our purpose for being here? And when everything goes crazy, we can lean into that.
I was thinking also, Marie, there was a movie out there that's called We Were Soldiers. There's a scene in there where they're being overrun by the Vietnamese. And what he does is he calls them to the command center and he's broken down. And that term represents that. Is that we cannot spend this efficiently anymore. And I was thinking from a project point of view, having that stake in the ground, knowing where you stand, but also having an understanding that if this project feels beyond measure, if there's no way that we think we can recover it, it'd be good to have that kind of similar terminology, so that you can go to your leaders and your critical stakeholders and broken out. Get everybody in this room. It's going to help that.
That's great, that's great. And how many times, I love that point, because how many times do people not say anything? Because they either think it's not going to be listened to, or somebody's going to say, well, I don't care, we're just going to make it happen, right? Or, they don't bring it to the folks at the top. So yes to that, and that also goes back to the relationship piece and the kind of relationships that you're building on your team so that people feel comfortable to be able to do that. It's really interesting. The Challenger, remember the Challenger disaster that happened 30 years ago? That was because people didn't feel, I think people did say something, and it was squashed.
Yeah.
And others were afraid to bring it forward. And so people died because of that. Now, the projects we're doing, people aren't going to die. Hopefully, maybe a lady.
Yeah.
So I take that back. But that's an important lesson to think about, because if people don't feel like they can speak up, they can say, hey, broken arrow, we can't go forward here, and have people listen to them, then, that's a stake that's
And also, that was a dedication video I told my conference in terms of decision. So, you meant the voice inflection and the expression of the faces and everything else. So that's why you made it work.
Yeah, but nobody actually stopped and said, people will die if we don't fix this, whatever the situation was. So we've got to create an environment where people are comfortable enough to say, we just can't go forward, you have to listen, right? And that's your stake, right? We are not going to have anybody die. That's part of the stake. So, okay, great. Good. So again, in terms of the worksheet, there's a co-creating your stake worksheet around what's, just to go through the thought process, my organization, my project, each one of my projects, my role, what's my stake for those things. It's a worthwhile exercise to go through, and I was going to say, even if you don't share it with anybody, but I highly encourage you to share it with folks. Okay, and the next one, explaining your process. This goes right back to what you were saying originally, okay? So IT, a lot of times, is this big black box for folks that are not in IT. And we hear complaints all the time about why do you have to ask so many questions? Why do we have so many forms to fill out? Why do we have to go through the change process? Why do we have to sit there and have a risk assessment meeting, whatever? Why, and this is taking so long, and we still don't get it right, all of those things, right? So this whole piece is really about being proactive about demystifying the process, opening up that black box and inviting people to look inside, pull it all out and show them. So here's the process that we use, and here's why each one of these steps is important. If we don't do this, this is what's going to happen. We're going to miss this requirement, or, the quality of it, if we don't, go through testing, the quality of it is going to be disastrous. Whatever it might be. So to go through, and when I say proactively, I mean outside of the project, maybe hold a session where you're educating your business unit, or even educating different parts of your team that maybe aren't privy to, if QA doesn't know what the BAs do, or vice versa, or that sort of thing. To open up some sort of workshop or meeting that you're actually stepping through and educating folks and letting them know, here's why this step is important. Here are the templates that we use, because we want to make sure we hit every question. We want to make sure that we hit every gate whatever that might be. So demystifying that, whether it's your SDLC, your agile process, your project management methodology, whatever it is that you use to do that. Why is it necessary? Letting them know, okay, so we all like to hear why do I care about this? How do I benefit from it, right? So making sure that you're speaking to it from the point of view of how they will benefit. Yeah, Ari, you got something.
Yeah, this brings up some, let's say, it touches some raw nerves, because I think part of what happens in IT processes is we get sucked into ritual ourselves and stop aligning IT to business needs. So part of that conversation is, are there areas where we've created ritual that isn't serving even us?
Yes.
And I think that goes to all these relationships. Part of it is being open to the fact that you may have walked in thinking, well, I need to convince you to do, or I need us to get along so that you will do. But the other side of it is, what am I not hearing that if I were hearing would enable us both for jobs better?
Yeah, that's great. So absolutely, and that's part of what's in the worksheet here is looking at your process. Look at your processes. Look at your templates. Look at the ways in which, those routines that you go through now because I'm supposed to, or they've worked before. But look at them. Do they need a facelift? Do they need to be adjusted in some way? Do they need to be tweaked with your business unit, right? Versus just dictating how it works, that sort of thing. So absolutely, because again, it's just easy to kind of repeat things if they've worked in the past, but are they still working for you, or is there a better way to do it? Absolutely. So in the worksheet, yeah, go ahead. Oh, 5 minutes. Ooh, 5 minutes, okay. So just educate, so do what you can to educate people. If you can't have a whole little, half-day workshop or a couple-hour thing, see if you can put, lunch and learns together or something like that, just to have that conversation. So in the worksheet, there are opportunities to look at that. And the last one is just setting expectations, and this is basic PMI stuff, right? So talking about risk, talking about your communication plan, your roles and responsibilities, accountability, all of those things, the racing matrix, all of that. So, but it's worth revisiting and thinking about again, looking at your process. Do you have all these pieces, and do they serve anymore? Do we need to adjust them? So making sure to create a common stake. Designing the alliance, I think, is so important. I think we step over that too, not the conversation about how do we want to be together as a team? How do we want to treat each other? And that goes right down to things like, showing up to meetings on time because we're showing each other respect that way. How do we schedule meetings so that people can do that if they're running from meeting to meeting to meeting? What are the, if we disagree on something, what's the process that we want to do with that? Instead of yelling at each other, is there something else that we can do? Just thinking about what are some of the behaviors that are happening that are not productive, that are actually detrimental to getting the job done. And again, this is all about being proactive. So being proactive about, as you step into this new project or this new team, how do we want to be together? Let's come to an agreement about that. So actually having a discussion, just like you'd have a risk discussion or something like that. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Well, I think proactive is always good. People feel like you care about them. Projects, as opposed to just letting things go based on emotion.
Yeah. I think the less that we dictate, just because it's our process and we know that everything will go really efficiently if you just do it the way I know we can do it, but you invite into conversation and have them co-design and co-develop and the more people are willing to work with you. And when things start to go off, then, there's a little bit of ownership in it from everybody versus, oh, there they go again, they screwed up, right? So, and again, in the worksheet, there's a place to look at areas needing attention, being really specific, and designing the alliance. So when you think about that, and when you have this discussion with your team, some questions to ask are, what are the things that we expect of each other? of our interactions, of the way that we work together. What are the things that are unacceptable? What are the things that are acceptable? So those are questions that you can use to trigger that kind of thing. You know, what are the absolute, you know, this is just not okay. This particular behavior is not something that we want to bring into this team merger, okay? Okay, that's it. So, again, you know, it's about education, being proactive, taking those steps, going back and looking at the things that you've already got in process. Lots of experience here, and there may be some things that you can go back and look at. You know, I've been doing this all along. Is there something I can tweak? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, so you've got, let's see, a couple of handouts that I did. This one here, the Toastmasters one. Now, a few of you probably heard this is every single meeting I go to, I'm talking about this Toastmasters thing, but tonight we're having our sample meeting for a new Toastmasters club that I'm creating specifically for project managers and business analysts. So if you've heard anything about Toastmasters, coupling it with, you know, folks that are your peers, folks that are your colleagues, I think is going to be really powerful because then you can practice presentations and get some very relevant feedback. So if you're free tonight and interested, or if you can't make it tonight, let me know. We're having a sample meeting so you can test it out and see how Toastmasters is and join if you'd like to.
Actually, I like this group because this group has a combination of, it includes all the project management community.
Yeah.
These particular things. But usually if you go to any other Toastmaster, you will have all groups of people. Like, they may not be relevant to your industry, but here you're talking to your peers who knows about the project management.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, so the feedback you get will be
Yeah.
relevant. And you don't have to talk about work projects because, you know, you can talk about anything you want to, your hobbies, whatever that might be. But, and everybody comes into it at a different level of expertise in terms of presentation skills, speaking skills. There's also a leadership track too. So whether you're interested or not, there might be some folks on your team that might be interested in, you know, developing leadership skills and communication, speaking skills. So send them our way. But anyway, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay.
Let me, before we break, two Agile meetings tonight, the new Agile Roundtable, which I think is the Northeastern, but you can look up on PMI Mass Bay, and Agile Boston, which tonight appropriately is meeting about culture change. What are you afraid of? So
Good add-on.
Toastmasters, Agile Roundtable, and Agile Boston. Agile Boston isn't meeting at Nuance. It's meeting at the new scrum.org offices on Middlesex Turnpike, which is not far from here. Google Agile Boston. I don't want to take up a lot of our roundtable.
Great. So a lot of competition for tonight.
Anyone listen? Sorry, and your question.
So, anybody forgot to sign in, don't forget to sign in.
Oh,